Good afternoon to you. 3:06 now, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we are making sense of the news on, yes, yet another busy news day. Karoline Leavitt, National Press Secretary for the Trump campaign. Here at 3:30, we will allow her to speak about that upcoming debate on CNN tomorrow night. That's something that network refuses to do. Mark Chenoweth will be here at 4 o'clock. He is an attorney from the New Civil Liberties Alliance, the president, chief legal officer there. And they represent the plaintiffs in this huge First Amendment case today that the Supreme Court said, nah, we're not going to take this any further. You don't have standing. We'll ask Mark about that. Dr. Stanley Goldfarb is here at 4:30. He's a real doctor who really doesn't like children being abused. The Biden administration advocating for that very thing. We'll talk to Dr. Goldfarb about that. And then at 5 o'clock, Mark Morgan talks about the border. Right here on this program, you can talk to us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Yeah, there is, like I said, I got a lot to get to today. We've got Supreme Court opinions today, a 6-3 decision there where they allow our First Amendment rights to continue to be trampled and destroyed by the federal government. Thanks a lot, Supremes. You've also got the illegals pouring across our border, raping and killing Americans, including a 12-year-old this past week who was killed in one of the most horrific possible ways, tortured for over 2 hours before her death. And the feds were tracking at least one of the assailants. They had an ankle monitor on the guy. And they keep telling us, don't worry, we're keeping you safe. We're vetting all these people. It's lies. You have Alejandro Mayorkas out doing interviews and press conferences today, trying to take the energy out of all of the criticisms that are coming the Biden administration's way, well-earned and way overdue, ahead of this debate. He wants to try and let the steam out a little bit. I don't know. A normal country would have a lot of steam. A normal country would be very aggressive about what's happening to its people. That's what a normal country would do. Who are we? We also have the news today. Nate Silver, who predicts presidential elections, he looks at all the polls, he synthesizes them. He finds today that Donald Trump has a 2 in 3 chance of winning. He said the Electoral College probability at this moment, 65.7%. He writes today, this is not a close election. This is not a toss-up election. This is Trump's to lose. Trump dominant in all of the available forecasting right now. Now, of course, the message that you probably are receiving here implicitly, and the one that I'd like to send explicitly, is it's not over till it's over. Not a single soul should look at numbers like this and think, oh, it's settled. Don't worry. I don't have to show up. Especially if you live in places like Virginia, where it's very much a contest. President Trump will be there Friday campaigning in the state, standing alongside Governor Youngkin, a man who up until recently kept Trump at arm's length. The two of them will be standing together on a stage in the Commonwealth, campaigning for a better future for the country, a better outcome for the country than another horrific ride with Biden at the top of the ticket. So there's a lot of big things happening. I do want to say, just before the program, I just arrived back here at the studio, having spent a lunch event, with Riley Gaines, the college swimmer, the champion collegiate swimmer, the woman who had the bravery to speak up in the face of all of this insanity, where they say that men can be women and vice versa. But this has really impacted a lot of women across the country. Female athletes at the elite levels have had positions stolen from them. Riley Gaines literally had to share a podium position with a guy whose real name is Will Thomas, his William Thomas. You may know him now as Leah Thomas, who has been fighting to even get into the Olympics to compete as a woman. Thankfully, the brakes were slammed on that, at least for now. But it's wild, and I got a chance to spend a half an hour at this event. This was put on by the Independent Women's Forum. You may know, of course, that they had their bus tour arrive in town last night to defend women's sports, to defend women against the cruelties of really the American left, quite unfortunately, and specifically the Biden administration. The Biden administration is undertaking an all-out assault on women right now. They're redefining Title IX, which is literally designed to give women equal opportunities, pretty specifically in athletics, they are attacking that. The Biden administration wants to redefine what it means to be a woman, to suggest that men can also be women, thus defeating the entire purpose of Title IX, an all-out assault on women. So they have their bus tour all across the country. The left has been attacking it. The bus stopped at Chapel Hill. It has all these beautiful women and their pictures on the side of the bus, these great athletes fighting for women, lunatics defacing the bus in Chapel Hill. The women who are fighting on behalf of decency, keeping their heads up, the bus tour continuing. They arrived in D.C. last night. They had a nice event at the bullpen there in front of Nationals Park. And then today, like I said, I spent half an hour doing a Q&A with Riley Gaines. And if there's, with any luck, I'm hoping that we could get the audio of this and share it with you on the air. But in lieu of that, should that not work, there were some audio issues today, so that might not be entirely possible. Let me just share with you some of the things I was impressed by. I've talked to Riley Gaines a bunch. We've had her on the program a lot. I've talked to her through these past couple years where she's been public about all of this. And one of the questions I had for her as a father of a daughter is, how do you raise a child? What should parents do to instill in their child the kind of values that you demonstrated in this saga, where not only do you recognize what is wrong, and that's key, giving your kid the ability to recognize what is wrong, but also you had the courage to say it out loud in the face of so much pressure not to speak at all. In fact, implicitly, that you would be hurt if you did, that there would be consequences for this, that you're on the wrong side of, what does the left say? The wrong side of history if you speak up and tell the truth, if you say the emperor has no clothes. What was it? And her answer was great. She said, she talked about a couple things. One was the rigors of athletic competition. She said, especially rising to the level of becoming an elite athlete, one of the things that you learn throughout all of that is discipline, hard work, fighting for yourself, teamwork, all of the basics. She said, she talked about athletics and the value there. She talked about her faith. She talked about God. She talked about God making us man and woman pretty explicitly, if you look at Scripture. And pretty obviously, if you look around the world. God made us man and woman. There's really no dispute about that. Or there wasn't until recently. And the other piece, and this was what I was looking for, was she was talking about, in addition to those two other excellent things, was her upbringing by her parents. Now, I believe she mentioned that both of her parents were top-tier athletes. She has a whole family of athletes, everyone around her siblings, gymnastics, all sorts of amazing athletes around her. So they were used to the rigors of athletic training and athletic competition. But she mentioned her dad, and I knew immediately when she told this story that I would like her dad, because she said there came a point in her life where she had to make a decision about what sport she wanted to stick with. Was it going to be softball or was it going to be swimming? And she chose swimming, to her father's disappointment, she says. Her father didn't like this. Her father thought that swimming wasn't a real sport, he said. And she said, why isn't it a real sport? And he goes, because any sport where men wear panties to participate is not a real sport. Talking, of course, about the men who wear Speedos to compete. The men are in panties, therefore it's not a real sport. And I heard her say that, and I thought for a moment, there's some wisdom in this. I don't think I'd agree. My daughter is a swimmer. My daughter, by the way, I brought her with me, my 10-year-old. She was so excited to meet Riley Gaines. She was wearing her own swim team shirt to, really emphasize the point that she's a swimmer. She got to meet her. Got a book signed by her today. Very excited to meet her. And the word role model came up a lot in our conversations. And she brought a friend with her, too, from her swim team. The two of them, two 10-year-olds, great girls. They were excited to meet Riley. Riley beelined over to the kids. As soon as she walked into the room, she went right up to the girls because she said, I see so many adults at these things. I love when kids show up. I love when girls show up. And she talked to them. She was really sweet. But her father, the line about any sport that includes men in panties, I'm not for, he said. And then she said, imagine his outrage when I started dating a swimmer, she said. And he looked at me and he goes, Riley, they wear panties. It was a hoot. It was really good. But you know what? The other piece here that I think really matters, and there's a reason why I admire her in her youth. She's still a young woman who's really waging a good fight and doing it so eloquently. She's not alone. She's brought a lot of other women with her. We talked to one of them earlier this week. Paula Scanlon was here Monday talking to us on this program. A lot, you think of Selena Soul up in Connecticut, the track star who has to face off against boys at the top levels of high school track. And the list goes on and on and on and on. These girls who are being attacked. And more and more and more of them are stepping up. They're actually getting out there and they're talking about their experience and saying, this isn't right. I didn't sign up for this. There's a whole reason that women have sports of their own. It's so that they can compete on a level playing field. We wouldn't have women's sports if everyone was the same. We're not. Men and women are different entirely. And one of the things we talked about today was how much the language has changed. Have you noticed? I don't know about you if this has been the case in your life, but the way we talk about this issue has really gotten so much better over the last few years, right? Just a couple years ago, conservatives had taken a libertarian approach to this issue insofar as they had tapped out of the debate. They're like, well, it doesn't really impact me. I don't care. Whatever you say, whatever you want. If you want me to call you Dolores or whatever, I'll call you Dolores. It doesn't matter. I'll say that. Pronouns, whatever. It doesn't affect me at all, right? But that's not the way the left operates. The left wasn't trying to leave you alone. The left was trying to take over your kid. The left, they want to raise your child. They say with some frequency that parents need to stay out of this. What did Terry McAuliffe say in Virginia? Parents need to stay out of the education system. Stay out of it, he said. Glenn Youngkin, if he can thank anything in the campaign from the McAuliffe campaign, it's that he said that parents need to stay out of the way when it comes to educating children. That's insanity. They're the essential component. And they're the most sincere caregiver. And they're the ones who know their child the best. And so when it comes to language, Riley and I were talking about how things have changed. A couple years ago, people would say phrases like trans woman, and people on the right were like, what does that mean? And you learn it, and you're like, that's what they say, trans woman? And you're like, you think to yourself, it sounds kind of crazy, but again, it doesn't affect me. And then over time, you start to recognize, oh, there's problems here. And then you began hearing people say, what do they say? And by the way, I'm not pretending that I wasn't in on some of the stupidity over time. I have been in the past. But where people would say, biological man, right? They'd use a phrase. They'd hedge. They'd hedge in their presentation, a biological man. And now, of course, at least all the people I know, everybody's saying, yeah, that's a dude in the women's locker room. That guy's cheating. He's stealing positions from women. And that, honestly, is the way that people need to speak. You need to be bold in this, and you need to be honest here. Riley said that early on she felt like she was misled on this topic because she was told, okay, you can oppose this, you can be against it, but you need to be respectful, she said. People would tell her, be respectful at least, because if you're not respectful, blood is on your hands. Somebody's life might end because of the words that come out of your mouth. That was what she was being told. And she said that it all kind of came to a head for her as she was beginning to be public about all of this. She started talking about it on all these various interviews. And at first, she was doing these interviews really just on her own. She was accepting interview requests, talking to conservative media, radio shows, Tucker Carlson, everybody. And eventually, the Independent Women's Forum got in touch with her, like, hey, look, if you need some help here, we can give you some media training. And she's like, what do you want from me in return? And they're like, literally nothing. We're just here to help you if you have any questions about how to navigate all of this. And they're angels over at IWF. They helped her out a lot. And now she's an ambassador for them, which is why she does these events with them. And she said the moment that she realized, I'm not doing this anymore, meaning playing their game, was she was in the middle of an interview and she was talking about, I believe, kind of the locker room nonsense. Like what she's being put into locker rooms with naked men and being told you have to accept this person as a woman. And she said the phrase, ready for this? The phrase that came out of her mouth during the interview was her penis. She said it. She said the second she said it out loud on air in the midst of an interview, she was angry at herself and she said, I am never ever doing that again. I'm never doing that again. Well, God bless her for it. It's been she has been a very valuable contributor and pioneer in that conversation. And she's fighting on behalf of girls and women. She's got a brand new book out. She's got a hold of it today. And she's just doing good stuff. So it was really nice to have a conversation with her. We were in a room with a ton of really impressive women, people I really admire, all of them, who, again, are fighting on behalf of decency. And one more thing, this idea that it's the respectful thing to do to a person who claims to be a different gender. The respectful thing to do is to lie to them. That's what you're being told by the left. It is not. It is never respectful to lie to someone. In fact, it's literally disrespectful to do. When you lie to someone, it means you think little of them, or you think you can pull one past them, or you don't care about their dissent. When you're lying to someone, when you tell them the truth, it's an expression of love. That's it. That's the difference. So if you want to be respectful, tell the truth. Oh, Richard calling in from Manassas, line 6. Richard, go ahead. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince. Once again, thank you for taking my call. Just a quick story. There was a story on Yahoo News on my Facebook feed about Miss Maryland, the first transgender woman winning that pageant, and I just put a GIF in the comments that said, that's a man. And you would think that I had posted a Nazi flag or something like that, the way people were coming at me, calling me names, and I just responded to them. It's like, how long have you been anti-science and a misogynist?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. You're the respectful one, Richard. They're the disrespectful liars trying to convince themselves of something that is not true. Yeah, that's a man. It was a dude. Mr. Maryland stealing a position from those beauties on that stage. Coming up, we'll be joined by Karoline Leavitt, National Press Secretary for the Trump campaign. CNN refuses to let her speak, which is why we'll give her the floor. Hey, good afternoon to you. It is 3:35 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we are making sense of the news. Coming up, I've got Mark Chenoweth coming from the New Civil Liberties Alliance. He's an attorney who's representing the plaintiffs in this massive free speech case today that the Supreme Court was too cowardly to take on. They say it's a standing issue. You should hear what Justice Alito has to say about all of this. I'll share that with you coming up. Also, Dr. Stanley Goldfarb is here. The good doctor would like to protect children from the Biden administration. He'll talk to us about that. And Mark Morgan joins us at 5 o'clock to talk about the state of our border. You can chat with us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Let me take Mark in Virginia Beach now on line 2 as we wait our guest. Mark, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hi, Vince. How you doing?
I'm good, sir. What's on your mind?
I got a quick scenario for parents. Imagine that Biden gets elected, and when he does, your house has your children and your money in it, and Biden sets that house on fire. What is the parent going to do? They're going to run into that house and save their money, or are they going to run in that house and save their children? Now, the fire is all these left-leaning, liberal LBGQ that are in his administration, starting with the Surgeon General. That guy is pushing the radical LBGQ agenda like nobody's business. And if Biden gets in there, there's 4 more years of that nut job, pushing transgender surgeries for underage children. Let Americans chew on that thought rather than is Biden going to make 4 more years? Because if he doesn't, it's Harris, and worse is coming.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate the call. Mark is talking about the medical priorities. You can't really call them medical of the Biden administration. And there's news this week that a Biden official you may know as Rachel Levine. It's a dude. His real name is Richard. He's an admiral. He's a pretend admiral in the in something. I don't think he's actually in a real military service. I'm not sure about that. But admiral, if he was, he literally just got in like 5 seconds ago, and he was promoted to admiral. And he's Rachel Levine. Rachel Levine. And so this week we find out that Richard Levine, has been browbeating the transgender medical community into getting rid of their age restrictions. In other words, you can mutilate a child without any minimum age restriction whatsoever because the Biden administration has pressured for that outcome. And that is precisely what Dr. Stanley Goldfarb is going to talk to us about at 4:30. He's the chairman of an organization that calls itself Do No Harm. I believe the Hippocratic Oath, that doctors are supposed to help you medically, not harm you, not lead you to more chaos. They're supposed to try and, to the extent that they can, bring you peace medically. Dr. Stanley Goldfarb is going to talk about that at 4:30. But this is just, that is a piece of the endless chaos brought to us by the Biden administration. The endless chaos that they're bringing us. And that's only going to continue if Biden gets another tour, or anyone else for that matter. Kamala, it doesn't matter. Change the name. The D will be at the end of it, and it'll be the same nonsense. Let me take a phone call. I've got Justin in Wilmington, North Carolina on line 1. Justin, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Karoline Show.
Hey, Vince. Thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to say I'm real angry about the Supreme Court decision today because Americans have been the victim of this government, social media, fascist information control operation for many years. It affected our 2020 election. It's been going on since 2015. And the Supreme Court just threw our First Amendment inalienable rights in the toilet and flushed it. So now we have a fascist information control nation. We're not free speech anymore. Thanks, Supreme Court.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Thank you, Justin. We're going to get into this more detail coming up as well with Mark Chenoweth at the top of the hour. He represents the plaintiffs in this case. He has a lot to say about this. Also, Supreme Court Justice Sam Alito led the dissent today, which was joined by Justice Clarence Thomas and Justice Neil Gorsuch. In case you're wondering who's on your side, the three of those men have issued a scathing dissent, ripping the court today for not taking this decision. Defending the First Amendment, not defending the First Amendment in the way that it needs to be defended from the tyranny of the federal government. More on that coming up. But before we get there, my guest is here. Karoline Leavitt is on the phone. She's the national press secretary for the Trump campaign. Earlier this week, she was censored by CNN because she dared say things that were true out loud on air. Karoline, good to have you with us.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
It is a remarkable thing, though, to see your conversation earlier this week with CNN's Casey Hunt. All you started saying were things that have literally been said on CNN by this week's debate moderators. Why was she so angry that you were reminding the viewers of the very things they heard on the network?
Well, because CNN can't handle the truth. That's why. And they are an anti-Trump deranged network that is posing as the most trusted name in news. And all I was doing was repeating statements that Jake Tapper himself has made on the air on multiple occasions. He's called President Trump's presidency a long American national nightmare. He's frequently compared President Trump to Hitler, which is disgusting and obviously false. Those are opinions of a liberal activist, not of a true journalist. So I was just pointing out that we expect this to be a 3-on-1 fight on Thursday, and CNN couldn't take the truth. They cut off my mic, and in doing so, they proved our campaign's very point. That we know President Trump is walking into hostile territory on Thursday, but he's doing it anyway because he wants to get his message to every voter across this great country.
Yeah, I've been saying, and I think President Trump has been saying, I think you've been saying, that when President Trump accepted the CNN debate arrangement, he was doing it in an environment where we all sort of believed that Biden thought it wasn't going to happen. So the Biden campaign is saying, oh, yeah, we're going to do the debate on CNN. There's no way Trump accepts this. President Trump accepted it, calling their bluff.
Well, that's exactly what happened. And President Trump is committed to delivering on his promises. And he promised American voters that he would debate Joe Biden anytime, anywhere, any place. And so Biden's campaign team, yeah, they came back on CNN with two hosts they know are in Joe Biden's pocket. They came up with all of these crazy rules to protect Joe Biden because they know he's cognitively declining. And President Trump said yes. So now we have this debate tomorrow night, and I think Joe Biden's handlers are obviously very worried about it. That is why they have had him hiding away in the woods at Camp David for the last week with no publicly scheduled events. And, I think your audience and all Americans should be really concerned with the fact that we have a leader of the free world who cannot debate prep and also govern at the same time. Biden can't hold one public event all week, really? That is pretty concerning, and we should expect him to be juiced up on whatever the heck he was on at the State of the Union tomorrow night because his team knows how much is riding on this debate.
If I can, for just one moment, I want to go back to the moderator issue. Has Jake Tapper or Dana Bash, for that matter, have either of them reached out to your campaign to apologize for those past remarks on the air, to say that they've turned over a new leaf, that they're going to be fair, anything like that?
Absolutely not. In a matter of minutes, Casey Hunt tweeted out her defense of herself, saying, if you go on the air and attack her colleagues, she's going to cut you off. Well, I wasn't attacking her colleagues. I was simply stating the facts about what they've said in the past. And now her colleagues have had real attacks by many people on the internet because people have now gone and looked up, well, what is CNN so afraid of? What are they trying to hide? And people have seen Jake Tapper's very long history of anti-Trump statements and lies. And so I haven't had an apology. Do not expect one. Will I go back on the air? Absolutely. No problem with that. We need to get the truth out to all Americans across this country. So I'll take the fight anywhere we need to go to do that.
How confident are you that CNN employees are not leaking the questions to Joe Biden ahead of the debate? The reason I ask that is not merely speculative. It of course, has occurred in the past. The former head of the DNC, who was once a CNN employee, Donna Brazil, has admitted, and it was made public, that she leaked questions to the Hillary Clinton campaign during the primary phase in 2016 from CNN. CNN claims that they parted ways with her over that. But how have they given you any assurances that they're not doing that now, or that they're locking down the ability for employees to share questions with Biden?
Well, we have asked if those questions have been shared. We were told they were not. I can tell you with full certainty, we certainly have not gotten any questions or topics sent to us. That's a question for the Biden campaign. You'll have to have one of his spokespeople on the show and ask them directly. We, of course, wouldn't know that. And we hope that's not the case. We hope CNN will be fair. We hope that they will try to reclaim their reputation as the most trusted name in news tomorrow night and ask good, tough questions of both candidates. And they should ask Joe Biden why he lied on the debate stage 4 years ago about the existence of the Hunter Biden laptop. That is a key question. If Jake Tapper and Dana Bash want to truly prove that they are not liberal activists, then that would be a good question to ask.
Well, it's going to be a little hard for Jake Tapper to do something like that because we get news today from Real Clear Politics that Jake Tapper's source for his original piece about the Steele dossier came to him from Jim Clapper, who was working in the government at the time. Then James Clapper, Jake Tapper, James Clapper, it all runs together. So James Clapper apparently was his source for all of this. James Clapper would subsequently lie about being the source. James Clapper would go in public and say, we're looking for whoever did this. This is awful that this occurred. It was him the whole time. Jake Tapper knew that, and to this day has never admitted that his source was James Clapper and that he knew that James Clapper was lying to the public.
Mm-hmm. Exactly right. And these are lies that CNN has pushed for years. They have been pushing the Russia hoax. They pushed the Hunter Biden laptop scandal. Dana Bash, by the way, was married to one of the 51 intelligence officers who signed on to the letter saying the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation.
Yes.
I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
It's so wild. So in terms of topics, you mentioned before they haven't sent you the topics. Does that mean that there is no specific topic for this debate, that it's just going to be freewheeling?
We don't know the topics and we don't know the questions. No, we hope that the topics will be what people actually care about in this country, the millions of people who will be tuning in, inflation and immigration. You look at any poll, CNN's own polling shows that that those are the top two issues on the minds of voters across the country. So we hope those are the questions that will be asked, but it has yet to be seen.
And we've seen some reporting this week that the prep that Joe Biden is doing involves them building an entire studio at Camp David. They have lights and all sorts of people making it appear like he's actually standing in a studio, Truman Show style. We've also seen reporting that the goal of the campaign is to try and get Joe Biden to, quote, trigger Donald Trump. He's going to try and throw Trump off balance by triggering him. What's your reaction to at least the public details of their strategy?
I think it's concerning that we have a leader of this country, the leader of the free world, the president of the United States, that has to prep for a debate for 7 days, that can't engage in anything else. I mean, we have real crises on our hands as a country. Yesterday, there was a report from DHS that there are more than 400 immigrants who have been smuggled here from ISIS, and more than 50 of them no one can identify. So we have terrorists in our country, and our government has no idea where they are, and Joe Biden is hiding away in the woods. Just last week, Russia and North Korea met to sign a pact to support one another. I mean, the world is laughing at us and taking advantage of us while Joe Biden is hiding away, prepping for this debate. We need a president who can lead and who can govern, and President Trump is clearly the candidate in this race who can do that, and tomorrow night is going to be an opportunity for him to show that.
Finally, Karoline Leavitt, and thank you for your time as always. President Trump's preparation, we understand, has involved just having some conversations with policy advisors. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, he's been meeting with policy advisors that are the experts on the issues that matter to American voters. But aside from that, he's been continuing with his very busy campaign schedule, and with meeting with like I said, policy advisors, but also engaging in hostile media interviews with the press, meeting with American people, the most important audience of all, which, that's why he's so good. That's why he knows what voters care about, because he goes out there, he gives rally speeches, he goes to cheesesteak shops like we saw him do in Philly on Saturday. So he's ready for this debate. He's prepared, and we look forward to the opportunity.
Karoline Leavitt, who may or may not know who the running mate is, National Press Secretary for the Trump campaign. Thank you, Karoline. Good to talk to you.
Thank you, as always.
Rick, calling in from Reston, line 1. Rick, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince. Thanks so much for taking my call.
My
Great
pleasure.
show as always.
Thank you.
I had a comment to make about the CNN arrangement. I don't have a problem with the Trump crew deciding to debate on CNN. I think they had to do that in order to get the debate and make it happen.
Yeah.
I think, though, what they should have done is they should have gone into it from the get-go saying, okay, we're going to send a senior guy over, Biden can't send a senior guy over, and we're going to sit down and talk about what the rules are going to be, and we're going to just agree right up front that these are the 5 topics, or these are the 5 questions, full transparency, nobody's surprised. Debate prep is going to be better. The American citizens are going to get a better performance out of their respective, favored candidates, or if they're neutral, then both candidates. Mm-hmm. And instead, they've set themselves up where some kind of subterfuge or tomfoolery or trickery or something like that can be done that otherwise wouldn't have been doable.
So you think the Trump campaign missed an opportunity to improve the quality of this debate?
I think they did, and to protect themselves from trickeration from the CNN people, the leaks of something by the next version of Donna Brazile. If they had just flat out said, like, okay, let's make the agenda for the debate right now. Let's make this open and understood by everybody, and then they're kind of in a can't get hurt situation at that point. And if somebody flubs the debate, it's their own fault.
Yeah, I think if I had to guess, and I'm merely guessing just like you, Rick, on what they were thinking, I think President Trump, to the extent that he's talked about this, he's basically said, I called their bluff. They didn't want to do this. They tried to basically say, look, we're putting a loaded deck in front of you designed to prevent you from winning. And I don't care. This is the one scenario that I can actually get on stage with this guy. I'm going to take it, including with all of these unfavorable conditions being involved. Clearly, there was some negotiation, Rick, between the camps, because the Trump camp insisted on standing for the debate. They wanted standing throughout the 90 minutes. They won on that issue, apparently. Additionally, just by way of coin toss, for whatever reason, and I still think that there's more to it than meets the eye, Biden's choosing the side of the stage that he's standing on. That's insane to me, but whatever. That's what they're doing. And then Trump gets the closing statement. He gets the final statement of the debate, at least as far as the candidates are concerned. CNN will say whatever it wants after he's done. But I I just think that he wanted this chance to square off with this guy, regardless of the conditions. And one more piece of hopefulness here for you, Rick. Even when the conditions are stacked against Trump, they've redounded to his benefit. That includes the courtroom lawfare that he's been subjected to. It's only made people like him more, support him more, donate to him more. So if there's anybody who thrives under these kind of insurmountable circumstances, it is Trump, Rick.
No, 100%. You're right about that. Those are good. Those are great points.
Thanks, Rick. I appreciate the call. It'll be very fascinating. I know it's one of the few times I'm telling you, lots of people are going to be watching a CNN broadcast tomorrow. Or if you'd like, if you don't want to stare at Jake Tapper, you can listen to WMAL. We'll be airing at 9 o'clock right here on this fine radio station. Stay with us. Mark Chenoweth up next. We'll talk about that big Supreme Court ruling today. And Mark Chenoweth, he's one of the attorneys representing the good guys.